The Lost Child by Mulk Anand. Something to know about the author. So let us know something about him. Mulk Anand was an influential Indian author known for his novels and short stories addressing social issues like caste and poverty and advocating for the rights of the marginalized. That means minority, or you can say backward class and classes. In my introduction, I have already discussed about this. A child goes to a fair with his parents. So now let us understand the chapter. It was the festival of spring. From the wintry shades of narrow lanes and alleys emerged a gaily clad humanity. Some walked, some rode on horses, others sat being carried in bamboo and bullock carts. One little boy ran between his father's legs, brimming over with life and laughter. So here in this paragraph, it describes the lovely atmosphere of a spring festival after the cold winter. People dressed in beautiful, colorful clothing are seen enjoying the festivities. Some are walking, some are riding horses, and others are being transported in bamboo or bullock carts. Amidst of all this, there is a cheerful scene too. A little boy is playfully running around, filled with joy and energy, highlighting the festive spirit. So, this is what the paragraph says. Moving ahead, let us enjoy more. And if there is any type of glitches, please have your text to see whether that word I have pronounced it properly or not. And if not, then please try to get the correct pronunciation. Many alternatives channels are now open with you. So the difficult words can be there, okay? So these can be there, lanes and alleys such as, okay, but you have to little bit have your research work too, so that you will remember it properly. Some of the word meaning might come out of my mouth while explaining the passages, but some might not. So it is you as a student to find out, and some of the meanings are already given in the book, so there is no need to worry. So I will try to explain it in a bit simple way. So let us move ahead with the paragraph. Come, child, come, called the parents as he lagged behind, fascinated by the toys in the shops that lined the way. He hurried towards his parents, his feet obedient to their call, the his eyes still lingering on the receding toys. As he came to where they had stopped to wait for him, he could not suppress the desire of his heart, even though he well knew the old cold stare of refusal in their eyes. Here in this paragraph, the narrator describes that a child is drawn to the toys, to the shops as he walks with his parents during the festival in the fair. His parents call him to hurry up and he obediently returns towards them but can't help glancing back at the toys he wants. And when he reaches at them, he feels a strong desire to have the toys, even though he knows his parent will likely refused his request, as they often do. So, this highlights the child's innocent longing and the disappointment he anticipates. I want that toy, he repeated. His father looked at him, red eyed, in his familiar tyrant's way. His mother, melted by the free spirit of the day, was tender and giving him her finger to hold, said, "Look, child, what is before you?" It was a flowering mustard-filled pail like melting gold as it swept across miles and miles of even land. Here in paragraph, the narrator tells about the child expresses his desire of a toy, pleading with his parents to get it from him. His father, feeling irritated, looked at him with anger, reflecting his strict discipline. In contrast, his mother, feeling the joyful spirit of the day, tries to distract the child by pointing to a beautiful mustard field that stretches far and looks like melted gold. She gently encourages him to appreciate the natural beauty around them instead of focusing on the toy he wants. This shows the contrasting attitudes of the parents and highlights the beauty of the nature. So in reality also, maximum of the parents, that means comparing to everybody, okay, fathers are very strict, rarely they are very soft. So it can be opposite also. So the attitude is as such, okay. And as a child, we must also understand that whether my parents' pockets are allowing or not. Simply, we cannot just uh, emotionally blackmail our parents, that I want this. So that is also not good. But what the child was here focusing to make the parents to purchase the toy, as he was not understanding the pocket of his parents out of his excitement, that is of his innocenceness, right? Being innocent, he is demanding everything. But see how mother change his way of demanding to another side of the nature beauty. So this is called a great skill that the mother has. A group of dragonflies were bustling about on their gaudy purple wings, intercepting the flight of a lone black bee or butterfly in search of sweetness from its nectar. The child followed them in the air with till one of them would still its wings and rest, and he would try to catch it. It would go fluttering, flapping up into the air when he had almost caught it in his hands. Then his mother gave a cautionary call, "Come, child, come, come on to the footpath." So here the speaker is trying to describe that a group of colorful dragonflies with bright purple wings were flying around in the uh, field, or you can say in the land where mother had pointed, playfully disrupting the flight of a solitary black bee or butterfly looking for flowers. The child watches the dragonflies closely and attempts to catch one when it lands, but it always manages to escape just as he gets close. His mother then calls out, urging him to return to the footpath, reminding him to stay safe and close to her as he plays. This points out that the child's playful spirit and his mother's protective nature. He ran towards his parents gaily and walked abreast of them for a while, being, however, soon left behind, attracted by the little insects and worms along the footpath that were steaming out from their hiding places to enjoy the sunshine. Come, child, come, his parents called from the shade of a grove had seated themselves on the edge of a. He ran towards them. In this passage, the speaker highlights that the child happily runs alongside his parents for a bit, but soon gets distracted by small insects and worms on the footpath, drawn out by the warm sunshine. His parents, sitting in the shade of a grove near a well, called for him to come back to them. The child responds to their call and runs toward them. Thus, this scene illustrates the child's curiosity and playful nature, as well as his parents' role in guiding and calling him back. A shower of young flowers fell upon the child as he entered the grove, and forgetting his parents, he began to gather raining petals in his but lo, he heard the of doves and ran towards his parents, shouting, "The dove! The dove!" The raining petals dropped from his forgotten hand. "Come, child, come," they called to the child, and had now gone running in wild capers round the banyan tree, and gathering him up, they took the narrow, winding footpath which led through the mustard fields. So, this passage, the speaker describes that the child enters the grove. He is showered with young flowers falling from the trees, and he becomes captivated, collecting the petals in his hands. However, when he hears the sound of doves cooing, he suddenly remembers his parents and ran towards them excitedly, shouting about the doves. In his enthusiasm, he drops the flower petals he was holding, and here in this paragraph, the illustration highlighted about the child's innocence and wonder, as well as how easily he shifts his focus from one thing to another in his joyful exploration. And here the speaker says that the child was playfully running around the banyan tree, enjoying his freedom, excitement, as his parents called him out to him again, urging him to come back. Then they gather him up and start walking along a narrow winding path that's through the mustard fields to the fair. So this highlights that the child's playful spirit and his parents' guidance as they heard toward uh, as they head toward a fun destination together. As they neared the village, the child could see many other footpaths full of throng converging to the whirlpool of the fair, and felt at once repelled and fascinated by the vision of the world he was entering. So the narrator here tells us that as they were approaching the village, the child notices several busy paths filled with crowds all heading towards the fair. He experiences a mix of emotions, feeling both drawn to and over by chaotic energy of the bustling city. This reflects his curiosity about the lively world around him while also acknowledging the intensity of the situation. A sweetmeat seller hawked gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, jalebi at the corner of the entrance, and a crowd pressed round his counter at the foot of an architecture of many-colored sweets decorated with leaves of silver and gold. The child stared open-eyed and his mouth watered for the barfi that was his favorite sweet. I want that barfi, he slowly murmured, but he half knew as he begged that his plea would not be heeded because his parents would say he without waiting for any answer he moved on. So in this paragraph, the speaker describes that at the entrance of the fair, a seller enthusiastically calls out the names of various treats: gulab jamun, rasgulla, barfi, and jalebi, attracting a crowd eager to buy. The child watches in awed excitement, particularly drawn to the barfi, his favorite sweet, and quietly expresses his desire for it. However, he realizes that his parents are likely to refuse him, thinking he is being greedy. Aware of this, he decides not to wait for their response and continues waiting. So the scene captures the child's longing for the sweet and his understanding of his parents' perception. Next, a flower seller hawked a garland of gulmohar, a garland of gulmohar. The child seemed irresistibly drawn. He went towards the basket where the flowers lay heaped and half murmured, I want that garland, but he well knew his parents would refuse to buy him those flowers because they would say that they were cheap. So without waiting for an answer, he moved on. So here in this paragraph, the speaker describes that the is captivated by a flower seller who is curiously promoting garlands of gulmohar flowers. He approaches the basket filled with the white flowers and softly expresses again his desire to have a garland. However, understood that his parents will deny his request, believing the flowers are too inexpensive. Understanding this, he doesn't wait for response and decides to keep moving along. This moment highlights the child's yearning for beauty while also recognizing limitations set by his parents. A man stood holding a pole with yellow, red, and purple balloons flying from it. The child was simply carried away by the rain glory of their silken colors, and he was filled with an overwhelming desire to possess them all. But he well knew his parents would never buy him the balloons because they would say he was too old to play with such toys. So he walked on further. Here in this paragraph, the narrator says that the child sees a man holding a pole with brightly colored balloons in yellow, red, green, and purple, and he is mesmerized by their vibrant colors. He feels a strong urge to have them all, but realizes that his parents are unlikely to buy them for him, as they would think he was too old for such toys. Accepting this, he continues walking, showing both his longing for the balloons and his understanding of his parents' views. A snake charmer stood playing a flute to a snake which coiled itself in a basket, its head raised in a graceful bend like the neck of a swan, while the music stole into its invisible ears like the gentle rippling of an invisible waterfall. The child went towards the snake charmer, but knowing his parents had forbidden him to hear such coarse music as the snake, he proceeded further. So here in this graph, the speaker says that the child sees a snake playing a flute, captivating a snake that gracefully raises its head from a basket. The music seems to flow gently, enchanting the snake. Intrigued, the child approaches the snake charmer but remembers that his parents have forbidden him from listening to such coarse music. Understand this, he again decides to move on without staying, showing his curiosity while also adhering to his parents' rules. Next paragraph, there was a roundabout in full swing. Men, women, and children carried away in a whirl motion, shrieked and cried with dizzy laughter. The child watched them intently and then he made a bold request. I want to go on the roundabout. Please, father, mother. So here the speaker describes that the child sees a roundabout spinning with people of all ages who are laughing and shouting with joy as they enjoy the ride. Fascinated by the scene, he gathers his courage and asks his parents if he can go on the roundabout. This moment reflects his excitement and desire to join in the fun of the fair, showcasing his boldness in making a request to his parents. There was no reply. He turned to look at his parents. They were not there. Ahead of him, he turned to look on either side. They were not there. Looked behind. There was of them. So here in this paragraph, the child realizes that, as is describing about him, the child realizes that parents are not responding to his request because they are not around him. He turns to look in front, to the sides and behind him, but he cannot find them anywhere. This his sudden sense of confusion, fear, as he realizes he has lost of his parents in the busy. A full, deep cry rose within his dry throat, and with a sudden jerk of his body, he ran from where he stood, crying in real fear, Mother, father! Tears rolled down his eyes, hot and fierce. His flushed face was convulsed with fear, panic stricken. He ran to one side first, then to other, hither and thither in all directions, knowing not where to go. Mother, father, he wailed. His yellow turban came untied. His clothes became muddy. Graph, the narrator describes that the child was overwhelmed by fear after realizing his parents are missing. The child cries out for them. His throat dry and voice nervous. In a panic, he jerks his body and starts running in different directions, desperately searching for his mother and father. Tears stream down his face, and his expression reflects his deep fear. He doesn't know where to go, moving aimlessly for them. In his desperate state, his yellow falls off and his clothes get muddy, highlighting his distress and weakness in the confused environment. Having to and fro in a rage of running for a while, he stood defeated. He cries, suppressed into sobs. A little distances on the green grass he could see through his full, filmy eyes, men and women talking. He tried to look intently among the patches of yellow clothes, but there was no sign of his father and mother among these people, who seemed to laugh and talk just for laughing and talking. So here in this paragraph, the speaker says that after running around in a frantic search of his parents, the child eventually stops, feeling defeated and overwhelmed with his cries turning into quiet sobs. As he looks around, his vision blurred with groups of men and women talking on the green grass, but he can't find mother or father among them. The bright yellow clothes of the people around him only deepen his sense of isolation, separation, as they seem to be enjoying themselves without a care, contrasting with his own distress and loneliness. He ran quickly again, this time in a shrine to watch people seem to be crowding. Every little inch of space here was congested with men, but he ran through people's legs, his little sobs lingering. Mother, father. Near the entrance to the temple, however, the crowd became very thick. Men jostled each other, heavy men with flashing, murderous eyes and hefty shoulders. The poor child struggled to thrust a way between their feet, but knocked to and fro by their brutal movements, he might have been trampled underfoot had he not shrieked at the highest pitch of his voice. Father, mother, a man in the surging crowd heard his cry and, stopping with a great difficulty, lifted him up in his arms. Here in this paragraph, the narrator describes that the child quickly runs toward a shrine where a large crowd has gathered, calling out for his parents. As he navigates through the crowd, he continues to stop mother and father. However, he gets closer to the temple entrance, the crowd becomes denser, with large men pushing and shoving each other, struggling to make his way through their feet. He is nearly knocked down by their rough movement and fears being trampled. In desperation, he screams for his parents at the top of his voice. Hearing his cry, a man in the crowd notices him, bends down and lifts him into his arms, offering a moment of safety amidst the chaos. How did you get here, child? Whose baby are you? The man asked as he steered clear of the mass. The child wept more bitterly than ever now and only cried, I want my mother. I want my father. So, in this part, the speaker describes that the man who lifted the asked or inquiry him ended up in the crowd and whose child he was. Despite understand, the child is too upset to respond and only weeps more intensely, repeatedly crying out for his mother and father. This shows his overwhelming fear and longing for his parents, emphasizing his distress and need for comfort in this chaotic situation. The man tried to soothe him by taking him to the roundabout. While will you have a ride on the horse? he gently asked as he approached the ring. The child's throat tore into a thousand shrill sobs, and he only shouted, I want my mother, I want my father. So, here in this paragraph, the man was trying to comfort the child, but by taking him to the roundabout and kindly asking him if he would like a ride on one of the horses. However, the child is too upset to be consoled and burst into loud sobs, continuing to cry out for his mother and father. His overwhelming grief and fear make it impossible for him to focus on anything but finding his parents was his most wanted uh, approach. The child was nothing required here. The child did not want anything except his parents. That was his what going on in his thought. The man headed towards the place where the snake charmer still played on the flute to the swaying cobra. Listen to that nice music, child, he pleaded, but the child shouted his ears with his fingers and shouted his double pitched strain. I want my mother, I want my father. The man took him near the balloons, thinking the bright colors of the balloons would distract the child's attention and quietened him. Would you like a rainbow colored balloon? He persuasively asked. The child turned his eyes from the flying balloons and just sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. So, here in this paragraph, the narrator says that the man determined to cheer up the child carries him to the gate where the flower seller was located. That he points out not flower balloon, sorry. Okay, uh, the man hoping to calm the child leads him to where the snake charmer is still playing his flute for the swaying cobra. He encourages the child to listen to the music, but the child blocks his ears with his fingers and continues to cry out for his mother and father only. The man then tries to distract him with colorful balloons, believing the bright colors would capture the child's attention and soothe him. However, the child ignores the balloons and simply sobs, repeating his desire for his parents. This illustrates the child's deep distress and inability to be comforted by anything other than the presence of his mother and father. The man, still trying to make the child happy, bore him to the gate where the flower seller sat. Look, can you smell those nice flowers, child? Would you like a garland to put round your neck? Here in this paragraph, the man, determined to cheer up the child, carries him to the gate where the flower seller was located. He points out the flower and encourages the child to smell their pleasant fragrance, asking if he would like a garland to wear around his neck. This shows the man's continued efforts to distract the child and bring him joy, despite the child's ongoing distress over being separated from his parents. The child turned his nose away from the basket and reiterated his sob, I want my mother, I want my father, thinking to humor his disconsolate charge by a gift of sweets. The man took him to the counter of the sweet shop. What sweets would you like, child? He asked. The child turned his face from the sweet shop and only sobbed, I want my mother, I want my father. So finally, in this paragraph, the narrator describes that the child rejects the flowers, turning his nose away from the basket and continuing through the cry for his mother and father only. In an attempt to cheer up him, the man takes him to a sweet shop and asks what sweets he would like. However, the child ignores the sweets and only repeats his cries for his parents. This highlights the depth of the child's sorrow, showing that no distraction or gift can replace his longing for his mother and father. So, finally, the moral that we learn from this short story is that true happiness and security come from the love and presence of family, not material possessions. So let me recall the entire stories of this chapter, The Lost Child, written by Mulk Raj Anand. What I have already recalled him about Mulk Raj Anand earlier in the beginning of this discussion. So, in The Lost Child by Mulk Raj Anand, it is described about a young boy who visits a fair with his parents, captivated by the sights and attractions around him. As he eagerly explores, he repeatedly asks his parents for toys, sweets, and other items, but refrains from insisting, knowing they would likely refuse. Suddenly, he realizes that he has lost them. Panic stricken, the boy frantically searches for his parents, crying and running in different directions. A kind man finds him and tries to console him by offering rice, balloons, flowers, and sweets, but the child rejects everything, only wanting to be reunited with his mother and father. The story highlights the deep emotional bondage between the child and his parents, showing that no material attraction can replace the love and security they provide. So this is all. Thank you, and keep having your interest in self-reading too for full understanding of the story and the master of all the questions solutions. So we'll meet with the next video. Thank you.